We now continue with Smurf.
Be me. I am a long-haul trucker. At the time that this happened, I was pushing the miles and heading up the highway across Wyoming. It was the middle of the night. All of a sudden, I desperately needed to pee. I basically had no choice. I tried to tell myself I would wait until the next big truck plaza in Cheyenne, but I had no chance. I was half considering peeing right there on the side of the highway until I saw a sign that gave me some relief. There was a rest area maybe 2 miles up ahead. I could probably just about hold it and make it there in time. I did not even think twice. I pulled up, and the lot was covered in ice. There were piles of snow here and there that had just stacked up. There were 2 other vehicles in the rest area too, a really shitty old sedan and some RV or something. I could not see anybody inside of either of them, so figured they were either inside or just sleeping in their vehicles, sleeping off the long drive. The RV looked pretty old and like it was falling apart. I pulled my truck in as close as possible to the building. I killed the engine and figured I could relax here for just a short while. I was completely exhausted. The rest area was a pile of shit, cheap and dirty, and like it was straight out of the 1980s. It genuinely looked like it had not been cared for or updated since then. The lights were barely on and working. Just these dim shitty yellow ones that gave you a migraine and flickered more often than not. I got outside of my truck and headed in. I was just ready to finally piss so I could just relax and take a break. It was a little bit warmer inside, but that was balanced out by the horrible smell of something that was wet mixed with something chemical, disinfectant or something maybe. The whole place really did just seem mostly abandoned. There were racks near the door that had flyers in them, and they were about a decade old. You could see the aging on them. The bathrooms were down a short tiled hallway. They were out of order, and wet floor signs were just strewn around everywhere. I just sighed and went to the nearest urinal. This shit was not my problem. I just need to pee, relax, and then get moving again, pretty quickly actually. I had a deadline for my load. The way the bathroom was set up was really strange. You could not see the sinks from the main entrance. They were like behind/to the side of the urinals. It was a really strange setup. But because of this, I did not even notice until I was zipping up that there was a man by the sink and that I was not alone in there. I almost jumped out of my skin when I turned and saw him, but I tried to play it off cool. He was incredibly tall, at least in comparison to me, probably around 6'2" or 6'3", and he was wearing this old grimy trucker hat. I kinda stood there for a moment, hesitant to walk over, because I noticed he was just standing there. He was not washing his hands or anything, he was just craning his head down slightly and just pretending to fiddle with something. And I noticed that every so often he would glance in the mirror once or twice to catch sight of behind him. To look at me, I imagine. This immediately had my hair standing on end. It just really gave me the creeps. He mumbled something in my direction when he realized I caught him looking at me, and I just gave him a quick nod while stepping towards the door. This guy, though, reacts insanely fast. He immediately steps out in front of me and puts his arms out to block me with his body. On instinct, I go to punch the guy, and I make pretty good contact with his jaw. I hear a horrible cracking sound, and he stumbles backwards in a crouching position until he hits the wall and slinks down it. He looks pissed. But before he begins to get back up, he just smiles at me, and I see the blood running from in between his teeth, and I feel the rush of air as someone rushes up behind me and grabs me from behind. I try to throw an elbow backwards, but I do not make any contact. He has me in some sort of full Nelson, and the guy in front jumps up from the floor and sprays something in my eyes. After this, with my eyes stinging, they put some kind of cloth or blindfold over me as I am flailing desperately, and I feel the guy in front of me start to search me. I hear the clatter of my phone and other belongings hitting the ground. I feel this sharp pain in my arm, as I recognize that this crazy bastard has just jabbed something into me. I immediately feel this kind of weightlessness in my head. It feels like a balloon getting ready to take off, but at the same time, my head feels almost detached. Like my head is not a part of my body anymore. He is feeling all over both of my arms and legs, pulling up sleeves and my pant legs. He starts shouting to his friends, and he sounds desperate. Something like, "Shit, shit, shit. He does not have a mark. Where is the mark?" The guy from behind is saying he does not know. The guy in front sounds even more panicked now and says, "This is not the guy," and I hear the door slam and footsteps racing down the hall. My brain is in full panic mode, and I am not entirely thinking straight. I don't know what they put in my body, but I already feel my strength slipping and my eyes giving up. My brain does not even give me a chance. I just decide I fight back now or I die. I full force throw back my head and make contact, and I hear the guy yelp. I think it hurt me more than it hurt him. I now have this dull ache in the back of my head where I make contact, and I feel even lighter. I almost feel like I am floating, and like my movements are now automated, like I'm just on autopilot. I do not even turn to see if I hurt him. The second I hear the yelp and his hands release from around me, I run and open the door and sprint down the corridor. The lights are all off now. I can't see shit. All I can see is the light coming from a flickering neon sign. I take a right into the back because I figure if I go out the front, I will be caught and die. I end up in this small stockroom which has more light. There is another door, and I figure that is the only way I can go. But the stockroom is not set up with any food or anything. There's some, but not much. Most of the room is taken up by a bed in the center of the room. There is a guy strapped down to it. There is a light over him, shining down. He is asleep or dead or I don't even know. I can't even really remember. But he has these fresh wounds. He has markings on his body in some kind of black ink or marker, and he has fresh cuts that have been poorly stitched back up. They look really infected. Near his upper chest, near the bottom of his ribcage, he has these, and they look horrible. I am not thinking straight still. I somehow, for some reason, think it's my duty to help him, even though I'm not even capable of helping myself at this moment. I turn towards the bed the guy is on, and in the process, my legs give out from under me, and I knock over this rack of noodles and Mountain Dew. I have to lift myself up with my arms, using the bed as leverage, and I just start shaking this guy. I have all of my weight resting down on him, and I shake him as hard as I possibly can, but I do not get any response. I still nearly puke every time I think of this, but I opened up his eyelids. I wanted to try and force him to see, and I don't know what I was thinking would happen. My scared and confused and falling asleep brain thought if I forced his eyelids open, it would wake him up or something, I don't know. I did not have a plan to get the straps off him. I had no idea how I was going to get him out of there because he would not be able to walk, and I could barely carry myself, never mind another person. In that moment, I was just on autopilot, but I opened up his eyes, and I remember yanking my head away and gagging because he did not have any eyeballs in his sockets. I did not even stop for a second to think. I managed to use a plank of wood nearby to steady myself and to help myself walk. I had no idea how the guy behind me had not caught up to me yet, but in hindsight, I think I know why, because I got outside. I went out through the door in the back room. Both the sedan and the RV that were there on the way in, they both had their headlights on now. The lights coming from them were so strong I felt blind, and they were making my head hurt. There were a few guys there now, standing out front in a circle, just smoking and laughing and watching me. I dragged myself over to my truck. The window was smashed, but I just ignored it. I put the key in the ignition and tried to start it, but the engine would do nothing but sputter. I felt my eyes drooping, and I knew I did not have long before I passed out. I knew that I was going to die right then and there. The last thing that I remember before I passed out is seeing people getting out of the sedan and RV. Tons of people, way more than I realized. Them and the guys out front started walking up to my truck, basically surrounding me. And then my vision just cuts to black. When I woke back up again, I was still in my truck. I scrambled up and started looking for my keys. And then I realized I was not at that rest area anymore. I was in the pitch black, with my headlight shut off, somewhere off the side of the highway. I turned the key in the ignition. It started immediately this time. I eventually drove off and made it to the nearest town. It turns out that my truck was miles and miles away from that rest area. I pulled up and checked into somewhere I could shower and just take a rest. I wanted to chalk everything up as a bad dream, but I had a mark on my arm where I felt that sharp pain. That much was real. Something had happened to me. I called the police in a panic. I told them what happened. Someone got out to me eventually and took a full statement. They told me it was odd because that rest area had not been active for a long time and there should not have been anything to make me believe it was. The police found nothing. Nothing at all that I mentioned. They found tire tracks and such, but assumed that they were mine, or maybe some other idiot who thought the same thing as me, who thought the rest area was still active. They found nothing in the store that matched what I said, not even any stock. I wish I had more of an explanation. I wish I knew what was happening there. I wish I knew why they let me live. Surely it would have been easier to get rid of me rather than evacuate the place. Or maybe my brain broke and I really did make it up, like the officer said. I really don't know anymore. All I know is I cannot stop thinking about it. I never had panic attacks once in my life before that day. I thought panic attacks were something just made up by lazy people, but now I know how real and horrible they are. I have been having horrible night terrors again recently, and I don't know how much more of them I can take. Be me. I am a long-haul trucker. I was running a load through Montana, Minnesota, and North Dakota. I have done these highways so many times I could drive them blindfolded. It's one of those nights. There is snow everywhere. I can barely see the road. The temperature is dropping pretty rapidly. My cab heater is struggling. My coffee has gone lukewarm. The CB radio is just static. There is not a soul out here tonight. I start thinking about how empty these roads get at night. It sometimes makes you feel like you are the only person left in the world. Just me, the hum of the engine, and the snow. I try to keep myself awake, flipping through radio stations. There is nothing but white noise on the radio. I take another sip of my coffee. It tastes like shit, but at least it is slightly warm. Suddenly, the CB crackles to life. Breaker 19 for the southbound, and then there is some static. You copy? I nearly jump out of my seat. I was not expecting anyone. The voice sounds familiar, but I cannot place it at first. And then it hits me. It's Earl. The problem is, Earl has been dead for 5 years. He crashed his rig on this same stretch. There was an icy patch and he just went off the road. I went to his funeral. I saw the casket. I even helped his wife with the paperwork. But now he's talking to me on the radio like nothing has happened. You out there, Bill? I'm lost. I grip the mic. My hands are shaking. I don't even answer back. I am just staring at the radio. Maybe it's some other driver with a similar voice. But then he says, Bill, I saw you drive by me. I know your truck. You there? My heart starts pounding. I am sweating, even though it is freezing. I ask, who is this? There is static and then Earl laughs, that same damn laugh that I remember. You know damn well who this is. Now talk to me. The snow is coming down harder. I can barely see the lines on the road. Earl keeps asking me if I am out there. I just finally snap. I tell him he is dead and that this is not funny. This is not a funny prank, whoever is playing it. There is a pause. Then he brings up that time I locked my keys in the cab and he helped me out. Nobody else ever knew about that, just me and him. Now I am really freaked out. I slam the mic back. I try to convince myself it's just some asshole with a scanner, but my gut says otherwise. Earl comes back. He says there is fog and a wreck ahead. He tells me if I go straight ahead, I will crash for sure. I check my GPS. There is nothing about a wreck or fog, but I start feeling uneasy, like something is off. I suddenly hit a wall of fog. I cannot see more than a few feet in front of me. Earl says, "Exit is coming in 1 mile. Just trust me." I see the exit sign. I do not know what to do. I think about guardian angels for a second, even though I'm not religious. I take the exit, even though it feels wrong. The road is empty. It's just me and Earl's voice. I ask him where the road goes. He just says, "You will see." I am driving down this weird back road. There are no lights or signs, just snow, and all I can see are shadows. Earl starts talking about that diner in Billings, the one with the waitress with the bad wig. We used to joke about dying out here, how the road would get us one day. I ask him how this is even happening. There is some silence, and then his voice sounds weird, like it's coming from underwater. I'm gone. You think there's only one road? There is the side, just under and then it goes to static. The snow starts looking strange, like it's moving in patterns. The road feels like it's pulling me in, like I am not in control anymore. Earl tells me to let go. My CB suddenly starts squealing. Earl's voice gets louder. It's almost desperate now. I yank the power cable, and nothing happens. "Just pull over, brother. Let me in." I can see that just up ahead, the road curves right, but it looks like it keeps going straight into the fog. I see a man on my shoulder. He has his hand raised. The truck starts fighting me. It feels like it's steering itself. I can't control it. I force the wheel back. I almost roll the truck in the process. I finally get back on the real highway, with snow blasting the windshield. The phantom road disappears. My CB starts going nuts. Earl's voice sounds really angry. "You will see me again, brother. We ain't outrunning this." Everything in the cab goes dark and then comes back. I just keep driving. I do not stop. I finally see the signs for Helena, Montana. Finally, I am back to civilization. I pull into a truck stop at dawn, with my hands shaking. I watch the other drivers and none of them look haunted. I try to convince myself it was just stress. I check the GPS log. I see that I really did take a 7-mile detour. The road isn't even named, it's just a gray line. I don't even ask anyone. I just get some food and go to sleep. It never happened to me again. I still do not believe in ghosts or devils, but I cannot explain that night. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. Many years ago, I was on what is called a meet and turn. This is where a driver that is domiciled out of one city will drive a load halfway to its destination, while a driver domiciled out of that destination will drive halfway with a load that is destined from my city. We meet in a parking lot, switch trailers, and drive back home. I had been on this run for a few months and found that I always got to the meet point about an hour before the other driver. It was a dark and empty dirt lot at about 3 a.m., so I would stretch out across the seat and take a short nap. One night, about 10 minutes into my nap, I was awoken by a barking dog. I tried to ignore it, but it carried on for several minutes and got louder as the dog got closer. Soon, it became apparent that the dog was right outside of my truck, barking at me. Okay, either this dog is Lassie and is trying to alert me to something, or he is just a pain in the ass and I will need to throw something at him to scare him off. It is important to note that the barking had been going on for a good 10 minutes at this point. So, I sat up and looked outside my window. Standing there, mere inches on the other side of the glass, was a man of about 35 years old. He was a large fellow and was barking at me. His eyes were crazy, and he was frothing at the mouth just a little bit. The scene really held my full attention for a moment. The sheer creepiness of this struck me. Gently, and making an absolute minimum of sudden movements, I reached down and started my truck and slowly pulled away. He chased me, much like you would expect an angry dog to do, barking all the while. Needless to say, it played hell with my power naps from then on. My mom is a trucker. This is her story. She was driving through Arizona when she saw what she thought was leaves blowing across the road in the distance. This puzzled her, since there is mostly pine trees in northern Arizona. When she finally got to the leaves, she realized that they were migrating tarantulas, thousands of them. There were so many of them that her truck was sliding on their guts, so she had to slow down. She stopped at the first truck stop and told her co-driver to fuel up. He was sleeping at the time because she was not going to step foot outside after what she just saw. Her co-driver was pissed since it was technically his time off, and he thought that she was crazy until he saw the tarantula guts and legs caked in the inside wheel well of the truck. She also outran a tornado in the Midwest. She was about to pull over and take cover until she saw another big rig that was parked on the side of the road get tossed a couple 100 yards like a toy. She called me and told me that she thought she was going to die and wanted her last words to be, "I love you," to me. She pulled off the freeway and got to a Walmart where she ran into the basement where all of the staff and customers were taking shelter. After the tornado passed, they stepped out of the basement and into daylight since the Walmart was destroyed. She has many stories like this. Trucking is 90% boredom, 10% insane shit like this. My uncle was a long-haul trucker back in the 1990s. Mainly did international runs from Canada down into the US and back to Canada with a pretty nice new Kenworth that had one of those maximum size sleepers on it. It had a built-in toilet and the works. He decided that the small tank that came with the toilet was a pain in the ass to have to empty so frequently, so he converted half of his passenger side diesel tank into a septic tank. A few weeks later, after converting his tank, he happened to pull in at a truck stop somewhere in the States and parked for the night after driving longer than he should have. When he woke up at 5 a.m. with the dawn just starting to get bright, he climbed out to see beside his truck something that makes him laugh every time he tells the story. On the ground on the right side of his truck was a 5-gallon jerry can, a siphon hose with one end in his tank and the other laying on the ground. There was a puddle of puke and some puke footprints another few feet away. That few feet away, there was a puddle of puke again. And another few feet away, there was another puddle of puke. Some dumb son of a bitch tried to siphon his septic tank in the middle of the night. Former trucker here. I was driving north through the mountains of Colorado towards Pueblo, and it was my first time dealing with anything like the Rocky Mountains, so I was taking it nice and slow with my hazards on and in the right lane. This was in the spring, and there was not much snow on the ground aside from a light dusting. I remember passing another truck pulled to the shoulder on my way up, nothing out of the ordinary. However, as I was heading down the mountain, which can be scary as shit in an 18-wheeler, trust me, I saw the same truck I passed earlier fly by me in the left-hand lane. Now, being passed on the left going downhill in the Rocky Mountains by another tractor trailer is crazy enough, but what really makes this story is this guy's trailer brakes were on fire. He was pulling a load. I could tell because the trailer was sealed, and if you know anything about trucks, you know there is only so much braking you are supposed to do before they overheat and, worst case, catch fire. This guy's truck looked like a comet as he sped down the mountain at what I thought was surely to be a deadly pace. I grabbed the mic to the radio and called out to him, "Hey, driver, your brakes are on fire. I mean, literally on fire." This rough and weathered sounding voice comes back over the speaker of my radio and says, "Cool as a cucumber, I know." And he disappeared around a curve. I never saw any wrecked truck, emergency crews, or even a mention of an accident over the radio. I did see a discarded extinguisher on the ground at the base of the mountain though. I was a long-haul trucker for a few years, and just spending every day out on the road is pretty crazy. You see a lot through the windshield of a truck. A lot of people naturally assume that truckers are male, and women will flash you a lot. I also discovered that a lot of men will masturbate as they commute to work. Huh? Once they see that you are female, they like to do it for you. The images that stick with me the most are the dead people you see. There was a bad accident one night in Chicago, and it was late, rainy, on the interstate by Wrigley Field, and I could see the flashing lights in the opposing lane. I don't usually rubberneck, cause I just don't want to see other people's misfortune, but this time I did. There was a dead family lying broken on the road, and the first responders were pretty much just standing around, waiting for the coroner to arrive. I can still see the flashing lights in the rain, and the little dead baby laying 30 feet away from its dead parents. I wish I had never looked. Another time, again near Chicago, probably around Gary, I saw a possible drunk driver in a fancy car driving erratically on the interstate. I called the police and gave them the mile marker that we were at so that they could try to stop it. I lost sight of the car as it sped off, but a few miles down the road, it was flipped over on the other side of the freeway, engulfed in flames. I don't think the driver made it out. There was no one standing beside it. One night in northern Ontario, I was climbing a hill on a single lane, black top, and just as I crest the hill, there is a minivan coming straight at me in my lane, and a long line of cars that they are passing in the other. I have nowhere to go, and I am not allowed to leave my lane of traffic, even if it means killing you, so I hit the brakes, even managing to lean forward and grab the trailer spike to use all the brakes, knowing two things. 1, I am about to kill someone in this minivan, and 2, that I am about to be covered in the thousands of gallons of horse piss that I was hauling in the trailer. Luckily, the stupid minivan was able to get back in the other lane when other vehicles started hitting their brakes to avoid the incident that was about to happen. Things like that I remember. Nearly dying in accidents, nearly killing people as they cut you off, not realizing how long it takes for a truck to stop. There are good days to driving truck, but the bad ones were the reasons I quit. My dad was in Albuquerque. He was stopped for the night in a pawn shop parking lot. It was about 10:30 p.m., and his air compressor was empty. Earlier that night he had rolled down the windows, but since the compressor was out, he could not roll them back up until it refilled. Anyway, he is getting ready for bed, and a voice yells at him not to move. A female Puerto Rican tweaker jumped into the truck from the driver's side. The voice was in the passenger side window and pressed a gun to his head, ordering him to give her all his money and belongings of value. Unfortunately for her, my dad does not ever have cash on him, and the poor guy never buys himself anything expensive. He only had $60, a broken laptop, a cup of change, and his clothes, blankets, and toiletries. Of course, he did have his debit card, credit card, and a T-check, checks they can redeem at stops from the load they were hauling. They held him hostage in there for more than an hour as she unloaded everything from the cab and handed it to her 300-pound male friends. According to my dad, homegirl was tripping balls the entire time. She ordered him to follow her to the ATM, but considering that my dad owns his own business, it probably would not have ended well had she seen his accounts. He decided he could not let it happen. After a few more minutes, she decided that they were walking to the ATM. She had her friend on the passenger side help her down, ordering my dad to follow. As soon as she was clear of the door, he closed the door, locked it, and tried to honk the horn, but it made a hardly audible noise. Apparently, this was enough to send the trio running into the darkness with blankets in hand. Shaken, my dad called the police. Surprisingly, they had an amazing response. 15 to 20 patrol cars, a helicopter, dogs, etc. were all there within 5 minutes. They caught 2 of them, but not the 3rd. I would also like to add a second story and figure why not put it here. My dad drives in Texas a lot as well, but there is a particular road he always avoids. I am not sure what road it is, but he says it is in the middle of old Native American land. One night as he was driving through, he kept seeing shadows running alongside his trailer. Every once in a while he would hear a loud bang, as if someone was slapping the side of the trailer. He decided to stop and see if the tire has a blow, because that is the only thing that could be making that noise. He did his usual walk around, checking the tires, but as he turned the corner, he heard a laugh and a shadow took off running down the road. Needless to say, he shit his pants, jumped in the truck, and did not stop until daylight. My dad said this incident was between Fort Stockton, Texas, and Eagle Pass, Texas. Apparently, he saw the thing standing on the side of the road with its arms crossed about 15 miles later.